Loves here. I'm wearing a hat, and today I'm going to show you how to make this crazy big room lead type sound. Once again. So you see there's lots of melodic potential. Here it is with some sort of a kick. It's not been mixed at all, so they're going to clash quite dramatically, but you'll get some sort of an idea. And that's that. So it's a pretty cool sounding thing. Now, how did I make this? Where did it start? Well, I was trying to make this other sound from a track. I forgot. Oh, Saber Z Javelin. And I misspelled some stuff, I'm pretty sure, up there. But that is okay because we don't care about spelling. We care about sound design. So I was trying to make a sound from that track, and I was just having a really hard time making that sound. So I came up with this sound instead. That tends to happen when you're trying to make other people's sounds. So I'm going to show you how to make this one. And what happens is if we undress this sound, if we bring it down to its bare form and take away all the fancy effects and doodads, which you can see there is a number of things going on here, this is what it sounds like naked. So that's what we have to start with. And the original sound made me think of FM synthesis, and I'm pretty sure it's still what they used. I just wasn't getting that close. So I was messing around with FM synthesis, and in the end, I ended up not using it, but I am using a little bit of ring modulation, so we'll get rid of that too. So first up, we have just it was a saw wave coming out, but I removed some of the fundamental. And so if all this is gibberish to you, Sytrus from the ground up is the series for you. So I took this and I changed the phase and also changed the harmonics just a smidge. These first couple of harmonics are going to be responsible for a huge portion of this sound. So if I alter these, I'm going to get very different sounds down the road. I'm not going to change this because of how really small moves here can make a big change. So we got this, right? And that's just going straight out and it's no effects or anything else. Then I RM'd it a little bit. So this is without RM. That's with RM. There's not a huge difference. It's just not that big of a difference. So it's just a little bit of crunch on it just to give it a little bit of edge. I don't know, just throwing buzzwords at you. But those were the ideas, the notions I had. You'll notice that this is at a ratio of 1. I actually was messing around with various things that you can see. I was messing around with 3, but I decided it was a dumb idea. This next one is also a sawtooth, but it's been moved over. I was changing the phase of this. This is also a very important move. If you go to the oscillator tab, that was another move. So when you add in 2, you get this. But now a whole bunch more things are going on, and this isn't just dry either. So if we go to the main page, you see I have a unison of order 3. The panning's all the way up because I wanted, a really big, wide sound, like really fat. What does this PH stand for? I forgot. Unison phase. Move that around a little bit. Move around these. One of these is the sub harmonics. It's this one. And it sounds pretty cool as subs, but I decided against it. It became a bad idea later, so I took it out. But anyways, the unison's at 3, and the unison volume and unison pitch are like this. The pitch one is kind of an important one. You're going to have to find a sweet spot. So you move it up and down to find a sweet spot. This is stuff you'll come back and change later on while you're making the patch. Okay, next up, the effect out. So I turned on the effect out because the original sound sounded, way wider. So I was like, I didn't want to use a ton more unison. I want it because I just didn't want to do that. I used chorus instead. So I turned on the effect out just an itsy bit, just a tiny bit. And it's coming on through here. You notice I did have the reverb on at one point in here, but I turned it off. Because of all the effects it's going to go through, having the reverb this early in the chain and having it run through all that compression and distortion was like a terrible idea. So I came in here, turned it off, and I added a reverb to the Sytrus bus. Which you'll see. So here we've got, which is, you can still hear that right now, actually. Let's turn that off. See, there it is. There you go. And so the chorus, so that's with the chorus on, without it. So it's this tiny, itsy bitsy difference. Next up, this is a sort of a bigger difference, is 2. So now we're going to get that, and it's also going through the same effect out. And you'll notice here that my envelopes have these little runs up. I didn't want I wanted wah wah wah, but it's like not a wah sound. It's like in the middle. I'm not really sure how to articulate that with my mouth. Ba 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 ba, maybe more like a ba than a ta sort of sound. And that's what this envelope allows me to achieve. It's very small, like woo 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 sound, like woof. Ba, like a ba sound rather than a ta sound. It was important to me. So that's what I have going on there. And I believe 2's going ta. 2 is ta for days. And then another important feature of this sound is the release. It's a very short release, but without it, it sounds like dot, dot, dot. Like it just sounds like you just grabbed him by the throat and like crushed it and it exploded or something. Like that's what it sounds like without this. So this is like you still crushed your throat and blew it up, but it took a little longer to do. So that's what's going on there. And you see this guy has a similar feature, a similar envelope. So those things are going out. Next up, one going to the first filter. So they come in the filter, and I literally just left the filter like it was. So it's basically just letting the lows through. The highs and mids have been removed. So if we take this away and turn on this, and another thing about the filter, this stuff isn't even going directly out. It's going through the effect out, which I did by accident at first, but I liked it, so I kept it. So see, it's really small, but when you start tossing it off, when you start tossing this kind of stuff on later, it becomes very big effects. Okay, so that's what I had going on, and then I just turned on the rest of this, and you know, we got the RM out, and we are good to go. Next, we are gonna go to the effects. So I have that. That's my sound. Doesn't sound that glorious right now, but it's got the makings of greatness. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here. We're going to put a Maximus on it. And this is what I did for the Maximus. I blew up the highs some, and I brought the attack down and changed a couple of these settings around, and the mid. So I'm basically using this as sort of just a crazy EQ. And I also turned on the distortion because I thought it'd be fun to use the distortion modules here. So I brought it down and they hit this roof, and I thought that'd be a cool sort of sound to impart upon it. And after Maximus, we do not hit this wave shaper. It looks like we hit this wave shaper, but it was actually off in the preview sound. Next, we hit the EQ. This EQ is very important. It creates that nasally quality. So I boost some of these here mids, and I have this roll off. And by the time we get to the bass, it's pretty much rolling off through the bass spectrum. And when we get to the low stuff, it's been reduced by, 12 to 15 decibels. And then the highs have been reduced a little bit, like the really high highs. And you get that sort of a sound. Then it still sounds pretty straightforward. You may prefer this sound. I decided to throw another chorus on it. I brought the cutoff frequency all the way down, so it's pretty much processing the whole spectrum. Because you're not going to hear like 8 hertz. It's from 20 hertz up, so you're pretty much good to go. And these are the settings I settled on. So the stereo filter I left the same. The depth, delay, and LFO all share a relationship with each other that you can check out in the FL12 effects series. But here, this is the one I settled on. So we get a lot more of that, like that little blurry action that happens from a chorus. So it did exactly what I wanted it to do. Next, we're going to go and add in the send. So you see it's being sent in parallel to here. So this is going out to the Sytrus bus, but the send, which also goes to the Sytrus bus, has now been turned on. I'm going to turn this off so it just gets louder, which this is something that you'd have to mix down later. But anyways, we have Maximus first up. So this Maximus is important because the wave shaper comes next. And so I brought down the highs just a smidge, and I brought the mids and lows. I left those alone. Oh, you know what I did here? I turned the compression off on the lows. I didn't want to touch the lows. I left the lows alone. And I just left those right where they were. Did I adjust the bands? I did adjust the bands. I brought the highs down. So the highs are actually processing some of the mids. So I'm actually bringing more of the spectrum down. And that's pretty much what's going on in here. So, and everything, I turned the other stuff off. So that's cool. Then we run into the wave shaper. This shape will produce this sound, and which is what we end up with. Now we're going to turn on the reverb. So that goes out to the Sytrus bus, turn on the reverb, and you see it's been brought down a little bit. And these are the settings. It's rather wet, has a little bit longer than usual decay time. And the low cut and high cut are something you're going to have to finagle with till you get a sound you like. And then you get that, and it's really flipping loud. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to turn this down right now for my sake. I'm not going to deal with it all technical like that. So turn down, but when you turn it up and run it against a kick and you sidechain and do a bunch of stuff, but that's the way I got that sound I showed you at the beginning. So we'll turn on the kick now. And then we'd mix it, make it sound great. And these are clashing notes because over here we're starting on a, where is it? An F sharp. So maybe if we go down to an F, it'll sound nicer. So, you know, you get the idea. You begin to compose and work, but it's a great melodic thing that you can really do some cool stuff. You notice I'm messing around with the lower notes. The higher notes are not I don't know, maybe that's something you want too. You just mix it in the way that you see fit. So that is how I made this sound. I will have this FLP in the description for download should you desire to do it. You'll also get a bunch of other sort of sounds and experiments that came with it. So you won't, if you don't have these samples, they won't load up. So that's a bummer, but you'll get the sounds that as I've made them. And I believe I stuck with all native FL stuff this go around, all the same. Now you might be wondering, what is the deal with this wave shaper right here? Well, check it out. If you do something like this, it's like a compressor sort of. It's basically clipping the sound, but it's doing it in a really weird way. So like, check it out. That's after, right? Let's turn this on. So you get like the timbral shift that happens. It was just interesting to me. You can use it as to like really get at the transient and create just some really interesting attacks. So you see it sounds a little bit darker, but in a way that's not like necessarily equates to a high cut. It's just an interesting thing. So I quite enjoyed messing with this. So if I turn this down, a lot of the higher stuff lives there, or you turn it up, turn this up. So you just have some interesting options. It's just tonal shaping. That's what this guy was just sort of an experiment in that. I decided to take him off. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe. I do private lessons if you're interested in that. It's in the description. And have a blessed day.